uh, the thing I wanted to manifest was that I would get picked up by a beautiful blonde woman uh, driving a red convertible, and that she would pull over and ask me to not only get in her car but drive her car. So I was like, there's if that happened, that's just like there's no you can't say like this did not like I did not manifest this.
Hi, everybody. Dan and Josh from Monastery Dropouts again. Today, we're going to be talking about how to manifest your desires and create a life that you enjoy. And let's see, we both have some examples of things we've created in our lives that I think we want to start off with. Josh, why don't you tell us about one of your experiences first?
Okay, yeah, that sounds good to me. Uh, so when I was younger, I had never heard of manifestation, I think until I was like in my early 20s. And I was like, I'm gonna try to manifest something that is so outlandish it will like it's either gonna happen and I'll know it's happening or it just won't happen because it's so crazy. And so I had heard stories of people saying that if you visualize it and you can feel everything that's happening, you can feel like the wind blowing through your hair and like the sensations you're having in that moment, that's more likely to happen. And so that's what I did. And so so being in my early 20s, I had this uh the thing I wanted to manifest was that I would get picked up by a beautiful blonde woman uh driving a red convertible, and that she would pull over and ask me to not only get in her car but drive her car. So I was like, there's if that happened, that's just like there's no you can't say like this did not like I did not manifest this. And so for about like a week or two, I every single day and like multiple times throughout the day, I would visualize this and imagine how amazing it felt to be driving this red convertible with this like beautiful blonde haired like woman in the car. And so I at that time I was working in Iowa, and then nothing happened for like a week or two, and then I went back home to I'm from Wisconsin. I went home and I was at my parents' house, and a friend called and said, "Hey, like, do you mind if I come over and like pick you up and we'll go do something?" I was like, "Yeah, that sounds amazing." And so I walk out of the house, and literally this friend of mine she had a new car, and it was a red convertible, and I hadn't even said anything to her. She just was sitting in the passenger seat, and she said, I was like, "You got a new car?" And she said, "Yeah." She's like, "I want you to drive it." And I was blown away. I don't think I even told her what happened because I don't think she would believe it, but I was just like laughing, and the sensations I felt of just like being super happy and amazed. It
Mhm.
actually that all those things happened, and then we drove and like went and did had fun, and I thought in that moment I'm like, well, does it really fit because it's someone I know, and like I
Mhm.
was visualizing someone like picking me up on the street, and but I kind of thought about it and I was like, well, this is how the universe works. It works within the parameters of what's happening, and
Right.
it's easier for the world to create a situation where a friend of mine has the car. And so and actually, in that same time, I visualized three different things, and all three different things happened to varying degrees. But that was the most profound. And in my mind, now and then, I was like, there's no, you can't deny that that manifestation happened. And if you did, I guess you're just a skeptic, and that's just what you're gonna believe. So,
Sure. Yeah, that's a cool story. Yeah, in my own case, I think the what stands out in my mind was when I had gotten back from Japan in like 2005 or 6. I think it might have been 2006, and I needed a job. I had $0 to my name at that point. I had a house to live in, but I had to make payments on it and stuff. So I needed a job bad, and I could not. I was having such trouble finding work. I had a bachelor's degree, but just very few jobs that I saw. And so I sat down. I was like, okay, I want a job in my field, which my degree was natural resource management, and I want, to make a certain amount of money. I think at the time it was just like $16 an hour or 15, and I want it to be close to where I live. I don't want to have to drive more than like 20 minutes, and I want it to be full time. So yeah, I was struggling, but then one day I found an ad in a newspaper. It said a wastewater operator they needed and it paid 16 an hour. And I was like, this is it. This is the job. I just knew it. I've been focusing on, okay, this is a universe. This is what I need. And bam, it showed up and I was like, that's it. So I applied for the job and I told my parents, and my mom said, oh no, you're never going to get that job. The superintendent of that plant hates your dad. My dad is a wastewater superintendent as well, and he actually used to work at this plant, but then he became superintendent of his own plant. And I said, Dad, is that true? And he goes, yeah. He goes, that guy does hate me. But I was like, that's so. In my head, I'm thinking, but this is my job. Like I know it's my job, and I couldn't explain it. And I think I hadn't applied yet. My mom was like, "There's no point in applying." I said, "Well, I'm going to apply anyway, and just to see." Sometimes the universe throws out little challenges too. See how much you want.
Yeah.
And then so I put in my application, and then like a couple weeks later, my mom called. She's like, "Good news." She's like, "The new superintendent of the plant loves your dad. The old superintendent hated him, but he resigned like 4 weeks ago."
Oh wow.
And now the new superintendent is the guy who loves your dad. And in fact, your dad hired this guy for his first job in wastewater.
Wow.
So at that point, I became a shoe-in, and I got the job, and it launched to the career I have now, where I'm a assistant supervisor for water resources in North Carolina as a regulator. That's what got me on that path. So,
Yeah.
uh,
It's really
but it
funny
was,
because when you're talking about it, I was just thinking, man, are we sound really old talking about getting jobs from newspapers and stuff like that.
I know, right?
It's
Yeah,
funny.
it was a long time ago, 20
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Uh, but that was a really clear one for me. I just knew it when I saw it. And there's been some other things too like that, but that's the
Yeah.
clearest one. And of course, like, okay, so people who are new to this idea, like, okay, well, how do you do this? How do you manifest things? And I know what I do, and I think this is what you do too. We just kind of sit down and like, okay, think, get real clear about what you want. I think that's the first important thing. Figure out, okay, what is it I really want? Like I got all these things in my life. Like I'm in a job I really don't like, and or maybe you do like your job and you just want to do better at it, or you want to finish some project and do a really good job at it. Okay, in terms of manifestation, how do you make that happen? And yeah, you just kind of get clear about what outcome you want. If you're at work and you want the project to go well, just kind of envision that or feel it. You don't even have to like mentally make a picture. You can just feel what you want it to feel like when you're doing that presentation. Like, I'm a master at this, and people are gonna, it's gonna be really clear for people. People are gonna be understanding. I'm looking at their faces and they're really interested, that kind of thing. Or you can, like for my job, I just set some specific parameters that I wanted. I had my wants, and I just kind of set them out clearly in my head, and I just kind of you make an intention then, right? You get clear about what you want, and then you make an intention. Okay, this is what I want created, and then what would you say you do next? Then you just kind of allow it to happen.
I mean, for me, I try to be in a deep state of meditation, at least when I first try to first start the visualization. And I almost get to a point where my mind is clear and my body is clear of like emotions and thoughts. And I try to get into like a little bit of an expanded state where I almost feel spatial. And then yeah, I think I don't really like I don't visualize things like people visualize them, but I can kind of see what the image is of what I want. But I don't think of it in a physical context. It's a kind of like a feeling and like what's going to happen. And then I just feel the emotions and feel how good I feel with whatever I'm trying to manifest. And then you just there's no doubt you can't there's no doubt there. You have to just know it's happening.
Right.
And it actually it's not even something in the future. You just know it's happening right now. And that was one thing I always liked about the idea of manifestation is by manifesting, you're experiencing it in that moment and you're experiencing the joy of having that thing in that moment. So it doesn't even matter if it ends up happening because you're already experiencing it when you're manifesting it. And you're already in a deep state of meditation, which is, peaceful and blissful. And then you're also already experiencing what you want to have happen. And so at least how I do it and how I've done it, I don't attach to it at all because
Mm.
I'm already so happy to be experiencing it in that frame of mind of manifestation. So, and I think it's a big thing not to be attached to it. I think people teach that, but for me, it's a natural thing because it doesn't even matter if it comes at that point because I don't have any attachment to it anyway.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point that I had forgotten about, which is if you're always focused on, oh, like if I was always focused on when is that job going to come? It's never coming. It's not here now. I want a job. And you just focus on, I want it, but you're focusing on, I don't have it. Like that's not very helpful
Well, right.
for,
Well, actually, you're fighting yourself because the sense that you're sending out to the world is that you don't have it, and so.
yeah. And
Um,
like, I know in the case of that job, it was, I felt like it was going to happen. You know, I kind of set the parameters and I felt like it was going to happen. So while I was doing work, I'm looking through newspapers every day. I'm looking online. I'm putting out resumes,
yeah.
but I just kind of knew it was going to happen. And then when I
Yeah.
saw the job, then I really knew it was going to happen. I was like 100% certain no matter what the world threw at me. So I wasn't focused on how am I going to get this job, being nervous about it. It was just like, okay, here it is. This is mine. And it is a knowing, but if you're kind of a beginner to creating things this way, you can just don't focus on the fact you don't have it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And I think when Jesus in the Bible, he said like faith can move mountains. And the idea of faith to me is that it's not a belief, you just already know what's there. And so that that to me is really important, not having any attachment to it. And then I also think it's good to say like you're trying to manifest it and say like this is going to happen if it's in the highest good. Um,
Right.
because and I'll tell a story, and like I've heard a lot of these stories from all the people who have manifested things. If you're just manifesting like petty physical things, you
Mm.
can do that, but I would suggest only doing things that are fulfilling. And also I feel like there's less consequence if you're manifesting something that is part of your life purpose. So if you know what your life purpose is and what you're trying to manifest as part of that, um, then there's it's more likely to happen just as a natural consequence of what you're doing because you're moving toward your life purpose and you're within that track of your life purpose already. And so things just kind of fall into that track of what you need for that life purpose. And the life purpose doesn't come from you, it comes from the universe. And so it's just going to bring those things
Right.
forth because that's what you need.
Yeah,
um,
that's a
but if
good point.
but if you don't if you don't have if it's just like something like, oh, I want like this physical object, then my experience is that other things get attached to it that you may not want. And so, for instance, at that time in my life, I always wanted a white Subaru for for some reason. And so I just visualized driving this white Subaru and always having it. And then part of manifesting things is like kind of what you're talking about with your job. Like you look for jobs. You're not gonna just sit at home and not look for jobs. But like,
Right.
so I was looking around for cars, and one day at that time, the internet was really new, and so you weren't looking on there. It was just like you look in the paper or whatever. But I happened to be driving down a road, and then there was a white Subaru for sale. And then I was like, I went and looked at it, and the woman, who was selling it, she was very nice, but it was at that time in my life, I didn't have hardly any money, and it was out of my price range. But it was like it was used and it was reasonable. So I was like, well, I'm like, I already manifested this. I don't want to like upset the universe and like not get this. Like or like waste that. And so I ended up buying it because I felt like it was like part of what I had manifested and it's something I should be doing because I had manifested. And then within like 2 weeks, I saw like this like hazy white smoke coming out of the exhaust. And then I realized like, oh, this car has like I found out later it has like a gasket issue and like the oil was leaking into the gas. And so it was like burning the oil. So it had like a white haze coming out of the back.
Hmm.
So basically that car like needed a huge overhaul, which would have doubled the cost of the car basically for at that time for me.
Oh, wow.
So I basically had to end up just getting, I mean, I had it for like a year something. I just kind of drove it for a while, but I ended up having to sell it for like a third of what I bought it for, because the person knew they had to fix it. And so um, that was one of those things where I was like, I didn't really need that's not something that I needed to have. I just kind of wanted it almost like a luxury item.
Mhm.
And so it kind of taught me that for me personally, I would rather manifest things that fit into my life purpose and that like I really, really want. And so, manifesting like higher consciousness or manifesting time and money so that you can like, for me, like widen my consciousness and have time to like meditate and have time to help people and like, um, time to give things to the world or help the world in a way. Like those are things that are important to me or are part of my life purpose. So those things feel good to manifest. And I don't have any concern that I'm gonna get in that predicament where like the thing that I wanted to have happen comes to me and then I kind of have to reject it. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point about having it should be in line with your life's purpose. And, related to that, if you have karma that, essentially determines like, well, you're not really going to have much money this life, that's very hard to overcome. You're
sure.
probably not going to overcome that simply by imagining bars of gold, being surrounded by bars of gold or something. It's possible, or maybe you'll just be a bank teller, and you'll
Exactly.
and so if some people are like, well, I tried that and it didn't work, it's like there is karma, that really can affect things. But I do think, though, even if you have karmic issues around something, realizing how to uh, create things in your life by essentially aligning your your inner thinking, inner feeling, it's going to help.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't
Yeah.
make a poor man a millionaire, it might make a poor man able to eat and able to keep his home, and
Yeah.
things like that.
And I really don't think there's a limit to it either. It's like there's no limit to the universe. And so
Yeah, it's true.
if something is on that track of what you need for your life purpose, like the most amazing, crazy things can happen. And I don't think there's any limit to what can manifest because
Right.
it's just arising from that foundational divine consciousness. And so it's just bubbling up into the physical world. Um, yeah. And I think Paramahansa Yogananda said this, and the longer I live, the more I think it's true. He says that anything that you desire and try to create with your mind, it has to be fulfilled at some point. It's like part of the karmic cycle. And his, I think like Hiri Mahashaya was like, one of the gurus in that lineage. And like, I think in order for him to be fully enlightened or fully cosmically aware, Babaji had to manifest like this
Oh
palace
yeah.
that he had desired in a previous life. And so that's kind of like the warning that people don't talk about that goes along with manifestation is the more desires you're creating, the
Hmm.
more karmic things that are entrapping you in a way. So
Right.
to me, merging with that wider consciousness and finding fulfillment and peace, that's the first thing. And then if you want to add something onto it for this life, it's like life is boundless. There's no reason not to. Like let's enjoy it together. But um yeah, seek first the kingdom of heaven, I guess.
Yeah, there's actually, there's a good example of manifestation in autobiography of a yogi too, the Tiger Swami. Yogananda met him and just this massively muscled man who fought tigers when he was younger. And by the time Yogananda met him, he was a Swami, he was a spiritual seeker. But when he was younger, yeah, he would actually fight tigers. But he told Yogananda that when he was a boy, he was actually rather weak. And it was Yogananda said that was very hard to believe. He must have looked like Hulk Hogan or something. But the man said he did it. He built his muscles mostly by his mental intention, his mental thoughts of strength and health, just continually, he said. And so, an obvious example of manifestation there, but also he got very strong by doing that. And then he would fight tigers. But then he ended up almost dying fighting a very strong tiger in the end. And he stopped doing that. Before he had fought that last tiger, a saint had come to his father and told him that if he kept fighting, he was going to be almost killed by a tiger. So after that happened, and he realized, wow, the saint's prophecy came true. He met that saint again. I don't know if he sought him out or the saint appeared to him, but he dedicated his life to God at that point. And so that's a good example of somebody who manifested this amazing thing, but in the end, it didn't really make him happy. In the end, he realized, I need to seek God. I need to seek, you know, connection with my higher self. I need to seek enlightenment. And
Well, and
yeah,
that's
that was. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
think I think that it is a I mean, when people manifest things, if it's just things, they're trying to make themselves feel fulfilled or happy through the physical world, and that's not what's going to make people ultimately happy. And
Yeah,
so, what's going to make people ultimately happy is finding that peace within. And
yeah,
so, and I don't want to put any limitations on like we can have whatever we want in this world. Like we are divine consciousness made manifest in the flesh. But I just feel like that a lot of people who teach manifestation don't talk about the caveats to it. So
yeah,
I think that's what you're trying to talk about.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Caveat number one: it's not going to make you permanently happy.
yeah. Uh, yeah, and the one story that one of our teachers had told us, he was really into manifestation and he came from a very poor background and became very wealthy. And to him, wealth was really important, which is totally fine. And he had told a story about why you should be very, very specific about what you
Mm,
manifest. And he said a friend of his had manifested that he wanted to travel the world and like on boats and on ships and like go to the South Pacific. And then he said his friend ended up going on a troop ship to Vietnam to fight in the war. And
yeah,
so he was saying be very, very specific. Um, my experience is even if you're very, very specific, if it's not part of your life purpose, things like that can happen. And like that's what I feel like happened with that car I manifested. I was like,
Sure.
it just wasn't right. It wasn't part of my life's purpose. And so things happened that I wasn't expecting. And I think it's kind of like the humor of the world or humor of the divine. It's like playing these little jokes on us for thinking that we're so powerful type of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine in the case of that man who ended up going to Vietnam, it probably wasn't, he probably didn't create that he went to Vietnam. It was probably his karma. He had to do that,
sure.
and
Yeah.
but yeah, it's, if you're in a low, I did want to mention this. If you're in a like a very low vibration when you create things, manifest them, whether you have like a poor intention or a not healthy intention, or it's just karma interfering, it can be like wishing on a monkey's paw, like it could come true, but you're like, oh, I'm not that happy actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I want to emphasize, like, if you want permanent happiness, you really just you want enlightenment, you want connection with the divine. That's you. Then you can live in a shack and you'll be totally happy,
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a fun thing to do. It's a fun thing to create things. And I think, we're children of God. We're creators too. And so to create in a way that's conscious and, a little bit more, a more intentional and a more excellent way of creating, I guess, just more almost like you're creating more specifically and intentionally. It's a nicer way to live rather than just kind of viewing yourself at the whim of the world entirely. Um, and I think, a really good quote from Jesus in the Bible is, "Hey, you find God first, and everything else will be added unto you." I mean,
Yeah.
that's paraphrased, I guess, but I think it's really true. Like, if you find enlightenment, then manifestation is easier, and it's also going to produce better results. Um, about the specificness of it, yeah, I don't really think you have to be specific. I know people will say that, but I've found that you set a couple parameters, things you want. Like if I was going to get a house, usually when I set out to get a house, I'm like, okay, I want to be close to my work. I want it to be kind of a quiet neighborhood, so much size to the house, so much I want to pay. And I think those are reasonable parameters to set. And you're not really going to go wrong. But then also there's the feeling of things, right? And maybe you want to manifest, just say a better job, right? And you want it to be in your field, but there's so many different jobs and jobs you can't even imagine. It might be better after you've set a couple parameters, like, okay, well, I need to make at least $75,000 a year, and I do want it to be in my field somehow. Or maybe you don't even set that, but you just, okay, what's the feeling of it? Well, I want to be doing interesting things. I want to feel like I'm creating things that are worthwhile and I'm making a difference in the world. And I work with people I really like, things like that. If you can feel that, sort of set those parameters that you can more feel, right? Rather than, well, I want to be, designing cars, and I want to make, 500,000 a year, and I want to design a new Corvette or something. Well, you might get that, but you might actually have limited yourself in the sense that, you might have actually been happier designing Teslas or, something else. And you may have really enjoyed that a lot more, but you limited yourself by saying, no, I'm being really specific here. And, I want my girlfriend to be blonde haired and 6 feet tall. Like, okay, well, you're narrowing it down. There's a lot of people who you might have actually been happier with, but you set very specific parameters. Well,
Yeah.
hope that works out the way you want it. whereas, simply saying, hey, I want to meet somebody that I'm just totally in love with, and we have so much fun together, and the feeling is just really deep, and
Yeah.
it may be better to aim that way. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, we've both done this in our lives, and it's definitely improved my life when I've set it out and it's worked.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been times I've set intentions and they didn't happen, but that's okay. It could have, like I said, it could have been just karmic limitation. I don't know.
Yeah. And I would say the manifestation that I would recommend doing, like number one, it is that idea of seek God first. And it's the idea of having faith that the divine is there. And so people who you haven't experienced the divine to the fullness, which I guess, and that's where transcending time and space, if maybe all of us haven't totally done it, but um it's something that I do, and it goes along with that idea of visualizing. And so in meditation, it's like you feel a certain level of expansion and peace and that divine flow of energy. And then you can manifest wider and wider states of consciousness. And so I try to think of the state of consciousness of like the ascended masters, like the the beings or people who have fully expanded out into the divine and totally merged into the divine, and they have like they're immortals with like a Christ consciousness basically. And then while you're in manifest or while you're in meditation, if you're manifesting entering into that state of consciousness, you're already visualizing it and feeling it. And so you're already experiencing it before you fully are in it. And I think to me, that's one of the most amazing states of consciousness to manifest, because it's going to be part of everyone's life purpose. And so it's going to be more
Right.
likely to happen more and more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great manifestation.
Yeah, I don't know what more you need than that, but we are living, we have physical bodies and we live in a physical world. So um, I guess it might be good to experiment and see how it works out for you as an individual. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty well. Everyone is set to manifest their millions of dollars in their bank accounts.
The gold chains and yeah, that sounds good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us at Monastery Dropouts, and Dan and Josh signing off, I guess. Have a good
Bye,
night.
everyone.